It was the third year of tormenting the villain. The system finally came online. I couldn't wait to show the system the results of her corruption. I wrapped one hand around the villain's neck, forcing her to her knees. I pressed my foot onto her flat stomach. I asked excitedly, "System, is her corruption level off the charts?" The system paused. "Well, her corruption value is 0, but her excitement level is through the roof." The next second, her scorching hot hand clamped around my ankle. The red-haired girl's voice was husky as she pleaded with me. "Ethan, a little lower. Here, I want you to favor this place too. Host, your mission is to facilitate the villain's corruption. Make the villain a proper villain." Bringing me here had consumed too much of its energy. After that reminder, the system fell dormant. I nodded, understanding completely. I looked at the slender, tall, red-haired girl before me. This was the yet-to-be-corrupted villain, Chloe Davis. In the novel, the later corrupted Chloe was cruel and vicious. But at 19, Chloe was still a dirt-poor student, an easy target for anyone to bully. At present, her grandmother was sick in the hospital, and she desperately needed money. But a group of thugs had just stolen that life-saving money from her. They had left her in this alley like a piece of trash. Pushing her toward corruption would be ridiculously easy. I lifted my chin arrogantly. I looked down at her, a sneer on my face. "Do you want to get revenge yourself?" The red-haired girl looked up. Her face and body were covered in bleeding cuts and bruises, but she just silently picked up her empty backpack. It was completely empty inside. Seeing that she was about to leave, I acted. I channeled the spoiled, vicious nature of the body I inhabited. I grabbed Chloe's neck with one hand. She didn't resist. Her dark eyes were utterly lifeless. Her stare sent a chill down my spine. I held her with one hand while making a call with the other. I explained the situation to my bodyguards. The Vanderbilt bodyguards were not to be trifled with. Before long, a team of well-trained bodyguards dragged the thugs over like they were sacks of garbage. They threw them carelessly at our feet. Only then did I release my grip. My expression was haughty. "You want to get your own revenge, so I won't let you. You will never get the satisfaction of doing it yourself." The great villain, powerless against her enemies, unable to even lay a hand on them. Her corruption level had to be skyrocketing, right? As the thugs wailed in succession, I turned to Chloe. I shot her a malicious, raised eyebrow glance. Soon, a bodyguard handed me a stack of crumpled bills, a mix of large and small denominations. It looked like a few $1,000s at most. It wasn't even enough to cover my daily expenses. But this was the money Chloe had earned working for 2 long months over the summer. I'm the one who got this money back, so I'll decide what happens to it. I took a step forward in my black leather shoes. I casually tossed the bills into the air. I let them flutter down, scattering across the ground. Chloe's eyelashes fluttered. With a blank expression, she knelt and began to pick up the bills one by one. I placed my foot on her hand. It wasn't heavy, but the humiliation was immense. She said nothing. She just lifted her gaze, her dark eyes resting on me, completely devoid of emotion. I felt a shiver of unease. Instead, I had a bodyguard take off his jacket and tossed it to her. My tone was still condescending. "You need money, don't you? I happen to need a personal maid. You'll do. I'll cover all of your grandmother's medical expenses." I raised an eyebrow, feeling more vicious than I ever had in my life. Her voice was raspy. "Okay." After the car accident, the system brought me to this world. The Vanderbilts were originally fated to be childless. My arrival changed that, allowing them to have a son. I became the most pampered young master of the Vanderbilt family. I had been living in this novel's world for over a decade, until recently when the system awakened my memories, tasked me with pushing the villain, Chloe, toward corruption. By completing the mission, I would gain life force, and I could return to my original world. However, the system's energy was depleted and it fell dormant. The Chloe in the novel was a psychopath who couldn't stand to see anyone happy. Unfortunately for them, the hero and heroine had good families and repeatedly provoked her. As a result, Chloe's revenge easily dismantled the hero's family empire. She tore the heroine's family apart, turning them against each other in a fight to the death. It wasn't until the end of the story that the hero and heroine finally caught Chloe. After they reformed her, Chloe supposedly had a complete change of heart, and then she killed herself. No one ever found her body, but I knew a psychopath like her would never truly have a change of heart. How could she possibly kill herself out of remorse? She simply found the hero and heroine too boring. She found the entire world uninteresting. That's why she chose to die somewhere no one would ever find her. I brought Chloe back to the Vanderbilt estate and made her my personal maid. I wanted to keep her under my thumb. She was to be on call for me 24/7. I even made her take a leave of absence from her own college to attend my classes as a non-enrolled student. When the professor brought her into the classroom, it caused a stir. Caused quite a sensation, because she was beautiful, stunningly so. She had the most captivating face I'd seen in all my years in this world. The slightest upturn of her eyes could steal your soul. The professor was about to assign her a seat elsewhere. I reminded myself that this was just a story. None of this was real. I was just doing this mission so I could go home. With that thought, I mustered my courage and said in a voice dripping with malice, "Chloe, get over here. My dog belongs right here, next to me." The classroom erupted in murmurs. The looks of admiration they'd given Chloe turned to disgust. But she seemed oblivious to their malice, her expression remaining perfectly calm. She walked to my side, pulled out the chair, and sat. She was as docile as a puppet. I kicked her chair. I pushed my textbook toward her. "I don't feel like doing this. You do it." She remained calm. "Yes, Ethan." I had no idea when the system would return. I was getting anxious. I tormented Chloe every day, hoping her corruption level would finally max out. That way, the moment the system came back online, I could go home. One evening after class, Chloe still hadn't come to my room for my nightly shoulder massage. I stepped out onto the balcony and saw her squatting in the garden, pulling weeds. She was working meticulously. She held a flashlight on the flower bed, carefully pulling each weed. She was completely unaware I was watching. For a while now, she had been responsible for serving my meals, helping me dress, accompanying me to class, and acting as my bodyguard. And at night, she had to give me a massage. Of course, at my explicit direction. The household staff also isolated her, giving her the dirtiest and most strenuous chores. But she never complained, simply doing whatever was asked of her. It was well past the time for my massage. I didn't press the issue. When she finally arrived, she was clean and freshly dressed. She must have gone back to shower and change. She knelt on the carpet as she always did. She took the massage oil, poured it into her hands, and warmed it between her palms. Then she placed her hands on my shoulders. The moment her hands touched my shoulders, their warmth made me flinch instinctively. The next instant, I spun around and pressed my foot against her shoulder. "You're late, Chloe." Her voice was as cold as a winter night. "It won't happen again." I sensed something was off. I pressed down harder with my foot. This time, she didn't make a sound, but her breath hitched sharply. I demanded, "You're hurt. Why didn't you say anything?" "It's nothing." She tried to continue the massage, but I suddenly grabbed her chin. I frowned. "Who did this to you?" She calmly met my gaze. "Why ask? It was the people you assigned." I understood immediately. It was the other household staff, and she thought I had ordered it. I put on my shoes and dragged her downstairs to the living room. I had the butler summon all the staff, including the drivers and gardeners. I pulled open Chloe's collar, revealing the bruises on her shoulder. I asked coldly, "Who did this?" No one would confess. "I'll give $100,000 to anyone who identifies the culprit. And if I find out you're lying, your entire family will be blacklisted from every Vanderbilt enterprise for generations." Soon, someone stepped forward, trembling, and pointed out the guilty party. The whole ordeal lasted late into the night. When we returned to my room, I could feel Chloe's eyes fixed on my back. It made the back of my neck burn. I snorted. "I only told them to isolate you, not to harm you. Physical abuse is illegal. I may do immoral things, but I don't do illegal things." Her gaze was unreadable. When I looked at her, she lowered her head. It was clearly my fault for not managing the staff, yet she was the one apologizing. "I misunderstood you, Ethan. It's my fault. It won't happen again. You can continue to do immoral things to me." I graduated from high school and got into a decent university in Boston. It was right here in the city. Chloe also resumed her studies. Whenever she didn't have class, she would come and keep me company. But during Chloe's second year as my maid, her grandmother passed away. Her grandmother passed away. It wasn't from her illness, but from natural causes. Before she passed, she was still worried about Chloe. The bodyguards I had assigned to protect her told me everything. Chloe asked for time off to handle the funeral arrangements. I worried about her all day. She didn't return until late that night. She seemed even more lifeless than before. Her bangs hid her eyes, making it impossible to read her expression. Yet my heart ached as if it had been stabbed. I deliberately used cruel words to jab at her. You took one day off. Don't bring this mood to work with you tomorrow. You belong to me, which means your emotions belong to me. You're not allowed to be sad. She lowered her head. Yes, Ethan. Even though she was obeying me, I still felt miserable. She gave me my massage as usual and attended to me until I was ready for bed. Only after I fell asleep did she return to her own room. I heard her footsteps fade away. Only then did I open my eyes. I felt like I'd lost a part of myself, lying there wide awake until the middle of the night. Chloe's only living relative was gone, and I had ordered her not to grieve. I was truly a monster. I quietly got out of bed, went to the conservatory, and picked a bouquet of jasmine. I went to Chloe's room. I knocked softly but heard nothing. I opened the door, slipped inside, and closed it gently behind me. I placed the jasmine in the vase on her nightstand. It was her grandmother's favorite flower. I hoped it would bring her some comfort. Chloe was sound asleep. I watched her for a long time. She seemed to be having a nightmare. Her brow furrowed as her hand grasped at the empty air. I offered my hand, and she immediately gripped it tight. It hurt, but I didn't pull away. I knelt by her bed and gently smoothed the crease between her eyebrows. Chloe, your grandmother hasn't really left you. She's just watching over you in a different way now. I'll give you a raise tomorrow, so please don't be sad. Her breathing evened out, and I finally let out a sigh of relief. I tiptoed back to my own room. Once the tension left me, I quickly fell asleep. I didn't notice when my balcony door was opened. A tall, slender figure stepped into my bedroom. The next moment, the mattress dipped beside me. She carefully climbed into my bed. She wrapped her arms around me tightly. I smelled her familiar clean scent, mixed with the sweet fragrance of jasmine. My body felt like it was being enveloped by a gentle warmth. I subconsciously pulled the warmth closer, snuggling against it. The figure beside me suddenly went rigid. She lifted my hand and placed a tender kiss on the red marks her grip had left. She buried her face in the crook of my neck. Her expression was one of pure obsession as she whispered a prayer. Ethan, don't leave me. You're not allowed to leave me. When I woke up, I found 2 red marks on my neck. I scratched at them, but they didn't itch. I just noticed that Chloe's gaze seemed even more intense. I didn't think much of it. After that, my days consisted of tormenting Chloe and going shopping. I tormented Chloe like this for 3 years. In the 3rd year, I took Chloe to the equestrian field. She stood below, spotting me like a loyal servant. But I knew the truth. This was only temporary. In another 3 years, she would become the story's ultimate villain. The one person the hero and heroine were powerless against. For now, she was only sticking by me to use my power and influence. But since I was using her, I didn't mind being used by her in return, as long as it helped me achieve my goal. I was learning to ride. Chloe stood below, ready to catch me at any moment. There was a tension in her eyes. After almost 3 years, she was no longer as lifeless as before. She had learned how to act. As my mind wandered, a familiar, mechanical voice suddenly echoed in my head. Host, I've finally recovered my energy. I don't know why, but the energy drain was massive. It forced me into hibernation for 3 years. A grin spread across my face. System, you're finally back. I was so excited I immediately dismounted. Chloe rushed forward to steady me. She had no idea what was happening. I couldn't wait to show the system my results. I wrapped a hand around Chloe's neck and commanded, Chloe, kneel. Chloe glanced at me and, without hesitation, knelt on the grass. Yes, Ethan. Kneeling, she gently rubbed my hand, which was red from the rains. Her own knees were scraped from a fall she'd taken earlier. My skin is so sensitive that the slightest pressure looks like I've been abused. A look of concern filled her eyes. Does it hurt? She was too good an actress. But surely this wouldn't stop her corruption level from soaring. I pressed my foot against her stomach. I asked excitedly, System, is her corruption level off the charts? The system was silent. Well, her corruption value is 0, but her excitement level is through the roof. The next second, her scorching hot hand clamped around my ankle, guiding it downward. The red-haired girl's voice was husky as she pleaded with me. Ethan, a little lower. Here, I want you to favor this place too. Hearing that, I was so shocked I tried to pull away, but she held my ankle fast, pressing it against a certain spot. Even through the sole of my shoe, I could feel my entire body flush hot. She let out a muffled groan, her eyes shimmering with moisture. I averted my gaze, unable to look at her. I could only feel the heat of her hand making my ankle tremble. I tried to pull free, but she lowered her head and pressed a kiss to my inner thigh. Her hot, moist breath ghosted across my skin. A tingling sensation shot up my spine. The next moment, I snapped back to reality and scrambled away from her. Chloe just tilted her head, looking at me with feigned innocence. Ethan, didn't you used to like it when I did this? System, let me explain. It must be my method. I'll try something else. I shot her an angry glare. Gritting my teeth, I raised my hand and slapped her across the face. Chloe, who gave you permission to touch me? But she just turned her head, took my hand, and pressed a soft kiss into my palm. She looked up at me. Ethan, did that hurt your hand? It's my fault. I'll accept any punishment. The system's silence was deafening. It was about to drive me insane. I was getting desperate. System, you have to listen to me. This is slander. She's slandering me. I've been working diligently on this mission for 3 years. You can't just come online and believe her lies. System, host, I get it. This is also part of the mission. You two continue your play. I'm going back to sleep for a bit. Suddenly my skin felt like it was crawling. Back at the house, a heavy rain began to fall. I refused to speak to Chloe. She stared at me without blinking, silently begging me to just look at her. But I didn't. I went back to my room without saying a single word to her. I didn't let her serve me dinner, and I forbade her from entering my room. Outside, the rain was torrential, but Chloe hadn't come inside. I looked through the floor-to-ceiling windows past the balcony to the stone path in the garden. A familiar figure was kneeling there, perfectly still. The cold rain beat down on her mercilessly. She didn't move an inch. I pressed my lips together tightly. The system's voice echoed in my head. Host, I can't believe that after 3 years, the villain's corruption level is still 0. But don't worry, I have extensive experience from all the data I've read. To push a villain to corruption, you have to torture them, body and soul. Especially at a time like this, you cannot go soft. I nodded, my response absent-minded. I pretended not to care. I drew the curtains shut. I got into bed and closed my eyes, trying to force myself to sleep. Thunder and rain crashed outside, and flashes of lightning illuminated the room. I don't know how much time passed. I suddenly shot up and pulled back the curtains. Chloe was still kneeling there, motionless. The rain roared like a beast, lashing down on her without mercy. In my panic, I couldn't think straight. I grabbed an umbrella and rushed out into the stormy night. I stopped in front of Chloe, holding the umbrella over her. She looked up, and upon seeing me, her pale, frozen lips curved into a faint smile. Ethan, I was wrong. Don't abandon me. And please, don't ignore me. I took her hand. It was ice cold, completely devoid of warmth. I panicked, shaking her shoulder. Chloe, are you an idiot? Even a fool knows to get out of the rain. What were you thinking? If I hadn't come out, how long were you planning to stay here? But the corners of her lips lifted. Until you came. Luckily, you're here now. I was furious and frantic, trying to pull her to her feet. But she was as stubborn as a mule, refusing to move, just staring at me and repeating her plea, demanding an answer. Ethan, please don't ignore me again. Don't treat me like I'm not here, okay? Her stare made me uncomfortable, so I nodded. Only then did she smile. She obediently let me pull her to her feet. The moment she was up, her entire body collapsed against me. I struggled to hold her up, dropping the umbrella in the process, and was instantly soaked myself. I couldn't care less about appearances now. She buried her head in my neck, her voice weak and pleading. Ethan, my legs hurt. Don't leave me. I quickly reassured her. Okay, I won't leave you. I hurried her back to the house. She was freezing. If she didn't get into a hot bath soon, I was afraid she'd get sick. And of course, my worst fear came true. She really did get sick. After she'd had a bath, I knocked on her door, but there was no answer. I grabbed the spare key and let myself into her room. I found her collapsed on the sofa, her face flushed with an unnatural red. I struggled to move her to the bed. In the process, her eyes fluttered open. Seeing me, she looked like a small, wounded animal. She clung to my hand, looking so docile and harmless, as if she would do anything I asked. Her hazy eyes were fixed only on me. I gave her some medicine and coaxed her to sleep. I felt frustrated. Even after all this, she's not corrupted. Chloe, what on earth will it take to corrupt you? What do I have to do to finally go home? I slumped by the bed and called out, System, why are you so quiet? The system replied innocently, I did say something. I was confused. System, my reply was silence. I didn't understand. The system sounded like it wanted to take over for me. You're just too nice to her. Next time, you have to be truly cruel to her to push her corruption. Pursed my lips. After a moment, I nodded. Fine, I will. I never expected that Chloe and I would run into the novel's hero and heroine ahead of schedule. In the novel, Chloe becomes corrupted 3 years from now, turning into the story's main villain. She becomes a major obstacle to both the hero and heroine's relationship and their careers. But at this point in the timeline, they weren't supposed to have met yet. I was in class one day. Suddenly, I heard shouting from outside. It sounded like a fight had broken out. The moment class ended, everyone rushed out to see the commotion. I paid it no mind and was about to leave, until a friend of mine tapped my shoulder. Ethan, isn't that your little maid? I looked over and saw 2 people at the center of the crowd, clearly the ones who had been fighting. Chloe's expression was vicious, so fierce that no one dared to get close. The other girl was being beaten so badly she couldn't fight back. The system chimed in, "Host, that's the girl who used to bully Chloe. She just said something awful about Chloe's grandmother." I remembered her. This girl, Jessica, had always been jealous of Chloe's grades and had even hired those thugs to rough her up. She'd made Chloe miss her midterms and lose 2 weeks' worth of her savings. Later in the story, she gets reformed by the hero and becomes one of his loyal followers. She'd do anything for them. Just as I pushed through the crowd, I saw a guy step in front of Jessica. "Hey, it's not cool to hit someone like that. Why don't you apologize to her, and I'll make sure she drops the whole thing." I froze. The hero of the novel, Liam Anderson, had appeared, but Chloe paid Liam no attention. Her eyes found me in the crowd instantly. "Ethan." I had no choice but to walk over and stand before her. Liam looked at me. He quickly explained what had happened. My mind was racing. "System, host, this is the perfect opportunity to corrupt the villain. Go on. Side with the hero and crush her pride." After Liam finished, he looked from me to Chloe. Then he said to me, "So, if you could just have her apologize to Jessica, we can all just move on from this." I knew how much her grandmother meant to Chloe. I knew what forcing her to apologize right now would mean. I felt Chloe's eyes on me. The system reminded me again, "Host, don't go soft now." I clenched my fists, my voice cold and hard. "Chloe, apologize to her." She looked up sharply, her dark eyes fixed on me, unblinking. "I didn't just hit her for no reason. I cut her off." I repeated, my voice harsher, "Apologize." My face remained a blank mask, but inside, my heart was breaking. She pressed her lips together, her gaze stubbornly locked on mine. The next moment I raised my hand, and I slapped her, right there in front of everyone. Even Liam was stunned. The force of the slap turned Chloe's head, a red mark blooming on her cheek. She didn't move for a long moment. Then, slowly, she turned to look at the other girl. Her face was cold and grim as she faced a gloating Jessica. "I'm sorry. I shouldn't have hit you. It was my fault." She did exactly as I commanded, but my heart felt like it was being pierced by 1,000 needles. Even when the system announced that Chloe's corruption level was rising, I felt no joy. I could only clench my fists to keep the guilt from showing on my face. That was the person who had bullied Chloe, and I had just forced her to apologize. I had humiliated her in public. When we got back, Chloe locked herself in her room. I thought she would finally hate me, but a short while later, the system announced, "Host, the villain's corruption level has reset to 0. I was stunned, unable to believe it. Chloe had forgiven me just like that. She was like a machine, always able to process her own emotions, always ready to protect me. I had forgotten that she could feel pain, too. I locked myself in my own room, just because she was the villain, even though right now she was just a poor girl anyone could push around. I had to corrupt her by any means necessary, but I was raised to be kind to people. Before I came here, I'd never even been in an argument, let alone cursed at someone. But now, I used vicious words to hurt Chloe again and again. "System, I'm a terrible person. Do I really have to keep tormenting Chloe like this just to complete the mission and go home? But I don't want to do this anymore." Maybe in this novel she was a heinous villain, but to me, she was just a poor girl who had lost her only family. She desperately needed money, but she didn't turn to crime. She worked hard to earn it herself. If I hadn't been there, she would never have gotten her money back. Her grandmother would have died shortly after, yet she still didn't do anything cruel or unjust. She just acted like a dog with no self-respect, grasping at any chance to pull herself up. When she finally gained some power of her own, the hero and heroine repeatedly provoked her, destroying the peace she had built. I got her money back for her, but I couldn't save her grandmother. I gave her a place to live, only to repeatedly torture her and destroy her dignity. I curled up on my bed. I was so miserable I couldn't stop the tears. The system, unable to watch anymore, tried to counsel me. Host, this is a necessary part of the process. I've guided many hosts. They often go through this, doubting themselves. Host, if you can't pull yourself together, you might fail the mission. There are only 6 months left. You need to think carefully. I wiped away my tears. If I can't finish it, then I can't finish it. I'm done with this stupid mission. I got up, left my bedroom, and went to Chloe's door and knocked. I was sure Chloe would be furious with me. She probably wouldn't even open the door if she knew it was me. Just as I thought that, the door suddenly opened. A hand pulled me into the dark room. Before I could even register what was happening, I was pinned against the door. In that moment, I was struck again by how beautiful Chloe truly was. Her breath ghosted across my face, making my own breathing quicken. I looked up at her in the dim light of the room. I could only see the faint glint in her eyes. I pinched her waist in frustration. Chloe, are you an idiot? I tell you to apologize and you apologize. If I told you to go die, would you do that too? She stared at me. No, I'll live a good long life with you, Ethan. Tears welled up in my eyes without warning. I was grateful for the darkness, hoping Chloe couldn't see them. I lowered my head and pushed her away. I don't need you with me, Chloe. You should go. I only forced you to be my maid in the first place by holding your grandmother's medical bills over your head. I paid you well. It's enough to live on for a long time. The mission timer was running out, but she never seemed to get any more corrupted. I was done with the mission. I didn't want to humiliate Chloe anymore. I was going to let her go. Panic and confusion filled Chloe's eyes. Ethan, did I do something wrong? I'm sorry. I'll fix it, whatever it is. In the dim light, her eyes filled with helpless tears as she begged me. I clenched my fists, forcing my emotions down, and said coldly, "You've been my maid for 3 years. Aren't you sick of it?" "Because I'm sick of it." Chloe's eyes went cold, and the air around her shifted. She pinned me against the door again. She cupped the back of my head, her face drawing close. Her presence was overwhelming. She whispered, her voice a low caress. "You're just tired today, Ethan. You're talking nonsense. It's okay. I don't mind." I tried to struggle, but she wrapped her arms around my waist, pressing herself against me with all her strength. She forced my head back. She forced my lips apart. The moment they parted, her tongue swept inside, claiming every inch of my mouth. My entire body tingled. Then I heard her whisper, a tempting command, "Your tongue, give it to me." What little reason I had left kept me still. "Ethan, please." The sensation at the back of my neck was so intense I couldn't think. I didn't move, so she took the lead, her tongue twining with mine. She coaxed and tempted, pulling me down into the abyss with her. I wrapped my arms around her neck. The wet, intimate sounds were shockingly loud in the quiet room. She teased and tangled, relentless and tireless. After what felt like an eternity, I finally found a sliver of reason. I grabbed her waist and shoved her away. She stumbled back, surprised. I had already raised my hand to slap her, but she just let out a soft laugh, not angry in the slightest. Instead, she lifted my hand and began kissing my wrist. Her lips, swollen and hot from our kiss, trailed a line of fire across my skin. The heat made me flinch and try to pull away. It was useless. I snapped, "Are you addicted to being my dog? Chloe, can't you have a little self-respect?" She refused to let go, her eyes filled with a terrifying obsession. "Then you should take responsibility for me, Ethan." I met her gaze without flinching and said coldly, "I like them young and pretty, and I've already found a new maid. You don't need to come back. I only came here to give you notice." The system let out a sharp, blaring sound in my head. Villain corruption level, 10, 20, 50. I froze. "Oh no, host. It seems the villain really is a masochist. You tormented her for 3 years, and it seems she actually fell in love with you. Host, why are you so quiet?" I replied. I did speak. My reply was silence. The system launched into a confident analysis. Generally, this type of villain has an extremely strong possessive streak. Host, you should do exactly what you just said. Find a young, pretty girl to play the part. It will push her corruption level to the max. You could probably finish the mission in 6 months. No, maybe even 1 month. Unlike the system's excitement, my heart was a mess of conflicting emotions. I didn't even know if I should be happy about it. The The bodyguards escorted Chloe out of my house. That day, another heavy rain began to fall. Chloe stood stubbornly at the gate, refusing to leave. Only this time I didn't go out to see her. Soon I hired a new personal attendant. Her name was Lily. Her duties were to tutor me and act as my bodyguard. She completely replaced Chloe. Lily and I got along well enough. Meanwhile, Chloe vanished from my life without a trace. Only the system's notifications occasionally echoed in my head. Villain corruption level, 60. Villain corruption level, 70. Villain corruption level, 50. Both the system and I were stunned. Why did it suddenly drop? I had a bad feeling and frantically called for Lily, but she was gone. There was no sign of her anywhere in the mansion. Even the butler and the other staff had no idea where she was. Host, she's with Chloe. Her life might be in danger. Following the system's directions, I drove to a remote, abandoned house on the outskirts of the city. The place was deserted. Even with the sun high in the sky, the inside of the house was dark and gloomy. I could barely see a thing. I was frantic. Chloe was naturally devoid of empathy. I couldn't be sure what she might do to Lily, but a life was on the line. I gritted my teeth and stepped inside. The moment I entered, the thick, metallic scent of blood hit me. My face went pale with fear. I kept moving deeper into the house, until, in the back room, I saw Lily lying unconscious on the floor. I rushed toward her, but as I crossed the threshold, a pair of arms wrapped around my waist from behind, pulling me into an embrace. A familiar voice spoke, laced with a dark amusement. "Ethan, I've caught you." My back was pressed firmly against her chest. She lowered her head, inhaling the scent of my hair, like a dog that couldn't get enough. My whole body tingled with fear. I yelled, "Chloe, this is a society with laws. Kidnapping is a crime, you know that, right?" But she paid me no mind. She just held me tighter, refusing to let go, her voice stubborn. "Ethan, you finally came to see me. So you do care about me, don't you?" I finally broke free from her grasp and stared at her warily. Her previously cold expression was gone. She smiled, but her eyes were filled with a sick, paranoid obsession. I instinctively took a step back. Her smile faded. "Ethan, are you afraid of me? But I've missed you so much. I think I'm going crazy from it." She wasn't going crazy. She was already there. She grabbed my hand, holding it in a death grip, giving me no chance to escape. She tilted her head and pressed a kiss to my palm. Just like that day on the field. Obsessive and tender, she held my hand with both of hers. She buried her face in my palm. "You wouldn't see me, Ethan, so I had to lure you here. This girl took my place. She shouldn't be allowed to live." My heart pounded, and a sense of absurdity washed over me. The Chloe I knew wasn't this person, but the smell of blood was real. I yanked my hand away. I turned and rushed to Lily's side, checking on her. I checked her over for any injuries. The room reeked of blood, but she was completely unharmed. Just as I was wondering if the wounds were hidden, Chloe walked over to me. Her tone was flat. "Don't worry, she's not going to die." I didn't touch her. I looked up, confused, into her cold, lifeless eyes. "If you didn't touch her, then where did all this blood come from?" I had been so frantic that I hadn't gotten a good look at Chloe. Now I stared at her. I realized her lips were deathly pale, her face completely drained of color. Her normally calm, dark eyes were now utterly dead. It was like when I first met her, only worse. She said flatly, "It's mine." My mind went blank. Forgetting all about Lily, I scrambled to my feet to check on Chloe, but she stepped back, avoiding my touch. My heart clenched. She said, "I just wanted an answer, and now I have it." Me, system, I have a really bad feeling about this. System, host, me too. No one knew where I took Lily from, or where I brought her. But you knew, Ethan. You found this exact spot. My heart hammered in my chest. My palms grew damp with sweat. What if I put a tracker on her? Her dark eyes seemed to see right through me, her gaze unwavering. I checked. There isn't one. I've been wondering why you had to fire me, why you clearly care for me, protect me, yet you keep pushing me away. Is there something controlling you? She spoke slowly, making sure I heard every single word. Or perhaps, you have a reason you can't ignore? She'd figured it out? My eyes widened, and my heart skipped a beat. I don't care about any of that. You can continue to do immoral things to me. But you threw it all away. You threw away your promise. And you threw me away. Her voice was low and full of hurt. "Ethan, I'm begging you, have pity on me. Let me stay by your side. She swayed on her feet, her face ashen. In that moment, an overwhelming panic washed over me. I couldn't think. I just rushed forward and caught her as she fell. I felt a warm liquid seep onto my hands. I looked down and saw the shocking crimson of fresh blood. Chloe was rushed to the hospital. She had numerous cuts on her body and had lost a lot of blood. My people went to the scene and confirmed it. All the blood in that abandoned house was Chloe's. She had deliberately bled herself, deliberately suppressed her own feelings, all to lure me there, all just to see me, to confirm her suspicions. And because of it, she had lost too much blood and was now lying unconscious in a hospital bed. She didn't wake up for 3 days. I stood by her bed, looking at her pale, fragile face. Suddenly, I made a decision. System, what's her corruption level now? It's dropped to 40. I nodded, understanding. System, I'm giving up. I'm not cut out for this mission. These years I've had in this world have been stolen time anyway. I should have died in that car crash, but instead, I came to this world and found a father who loved me just as much. The system tried to comfort me. It's okay, host. You did a great job. I know this mission was asking a lot of you, but you still stuck with it for 3 years. Host, I've requested a final extension. You have 1 last month here, and then I can send you back to be with your family. I bit my lip, but I didn't cry. Ever since I learned the truth about my condition after the accident, I had prepared for the worst. The me in my original world was still lying in a hospital bed, comatose. Going back was just about spending 1 last bit of time with my parents. That was good enough. For the time I had left, I wanted to say a proper goodbye to my father here, and to Chloe. The system said this identity only existed because of me. When I left, all memories of the Vanderbilt air would vanish. That gave me some peace of mind. Chloe woke up 5 days later. Under my care, her wounds had mostly healed. When she woke up and saw me, her eyes shone with a brilliant light, but it quickly faded. She looked away. Ethan, are you here to pass judgment on me? Send someone else. I don't want to hear my death sentence from you. I couldn't help but laugh, pinching her cheek. Chloe, what are you thinking? She didn't say anything. After a moment, I added, there's no judgment. I paid Lily to leave, and I've had the whole incident taken care of. She looked at me sharply. Her dark eyes were shining. Chloe was discharged soon after and came back to the Vanderbilt estate with me. This time, there was no more humiliation. She no longer had to wait on me hand and foot, but it was like she was addicted to it. At night, she came to give me my massage. Her palms were as scalding as always. Her movements were strong, and the massage felt incredible. I instinctively tried to pull away, but she held me in place. Ethan, don't move. I don't know when the atmosphere between us became so charged. I didn't want to leave with any regrets, so I reached out and grabbed the collar of her shirt. It forced her to lean down, bringing her face level with mine. I wrapped one hand around her neck. It was so slender and elegant. Holding it, I felt like I was in complete control of her. I barely applied any pressure, but she let out a sultry moan. She was deliberately trying to entice me. Ethan, it hurts. It wasn't pain. It was a fever. And since she was sick, I had to take a closer look. In a dizzying motion, I was on top of her. I moved us to the bed, deliberately pressing my foot onto her flat stomach, feeling the taut muscles beneath. Her dark eyes gazed up at me, filled with adoration. Her scorching hot hand clamped around my ankle, guiding it downward. Her voice was husky, full of desire. Ethan, a little lower. Here, I want you to favor this place too. It was just like that first time. I applied a little pressure with my foot and heard her sharp intake of breath. Her dark eyes shimmered with moisture, the corners flushed red. She stared at me with pure longing. She was an absolute temptress. I'd never realized how shameless she could be, but I kind of liked it. I leaned down, nipping at her throat, at her collarbone. Tonight, you're going to serve me well. Chloe, make me happy. I remembered her soft lips and her hard abs, but I hadn't truly explored them yet. With only a month left to live, it would be a shame to leave with regrets. I was on top of her, setting my own pace. She loved hearing me say her name. My eyes were unfocused, but my hand was still around her neck. I whispered her name, Chloe, Chloe. She seemed to enjoy it immensely, perhaps because I knew I would be leaving soon. I was especially bold that night. My actions were reckless. I sent Chloe to heaven again and again, and she me. In the end, there wasn't a single corner of the room we left untouched. We left our mark in every corner. She called out my name over and over. We found our release together. I celebrated my father's birthday early, giving him a gift I'd made myself. He was usually busy and didn't hover over me, but I knew he loved me dearly. He never let me want for anything. On the day I decided to leave, I smiled and asked Chloe to go to the east side to buy my favorite pastries. They were the only place in the city that made them just the way I liked. After Chloe left, the smile slowly faded from my face. System, take me away. Get me out of this world. I thought I had no more regrets. After all, everyone was going to forget me. The system acknowledged my request, but I changed my mind. I wanted to see Chloe one last time. Wait, if she's not back in half an hour, then we'll go. Half an hour passed. There was no sign of her at the gate. I called for the system. The bedroom door suddenly burst open. I didn't dare to turn around. I heard Chloe's trembling voice. Ethan, where are you going? I took too long with the pastries. It's my fault. The trip to the east side and back took at least half an hour, and there was always a line at that shop. Yet somehow, she had miraculously made it back in time. I turned and saw large tears streaming down her face. She stared at me with that familiar, obsessive gaze. Ethan, do you love me? I shook my head. The light in her eyes shattered. Her expression became as lifeless as the day I first met her. Her voice was strained. Are you abandoning me again? I only said, I love my family. I love my friends and my life. So I had to leave. That's why I resisted the mission at first, but still went through with it. I loved everything about this world. Too. I loved my father here, I loved my friends, and I loved Chloe. My body was fading quickly. Chloe stared in disbelief, then lunged for me like a madwoman. But her hands passed right through me. The 2 boxes of pastries she had brought for me fell to the floor. They shattered into a million pieces, now completely forgotten. When I woke up, I saw my parents' tear-filled faces. I threw myself into their arms, sobbing. Mom, Dad, I'm back. It was so good to be back. I should have died in that crash. But now I had a month to say a proper goodbye to my parents. It seemed like I was completely healed. My family checked me out of the hospital and started me on physical therapy. I did my best to make them laugh. All the while, I was counting down the days I had left. More than half a month went by. I would often find my mind drifting to Chloe, wondering how she was. Then I would quickly shake my head. She had probably forgotten all about me by now. Just as I finished writing my will and was planning a farewell get-together with my family, the system appeared for the first time in ages. Host, the villain's corruption level is maxed out. Congratulations, host. You successfully completed the mission after all. Completed? I could hardly believe it. The rush of joy I had imagined never came. Instead, a wave of sadness washed over me. It enveloped me completely. I clutched my chest, finding it hard to breathe. Tears streamed from my eyes. How is Chloe now? Without me, she would follow the original plot. In the end, she would find some deserted place to die alone. System, the villain, she's gone. Less than a year after you left, host, she vanished without a trace. I can't find her anywhere. The time flowed differently there than in this world. Panic seized my heart. I canceled the farewell party, but I couldn't shake the feeling for days. My heart ached, a dull, heavy pain. One day, while I was out getting groceries, I saw a crowd gathered up ahead. I stood on my toes behind them, trying to see what was going on. Someone in the crowd bumped into me, and I lost my balance. No one seemed to notice. I closed my eyes, bracing for the fall, but the impact never came. An arm wrapped around my waist, pulling me steady. I fell into the person's embrace. A strangely familiar sensation washed over me. I looked down, thanking them profusely. I tried to pull away from their hold, but I was held tightly in her arms. Ethan, I found you. I looked up in shock and into a pair of hauntingly familiar dark eyes. It was Chloe. I snuck Chloe back to my house. She said she had a new identity here, but she was an orphan with no family or support. She could only rely on me. My parents were away on a trip and wouldn't be back for a few days. I asked her, how did you get to this world? How did you know I was here? From the moment we met again. Her gaze hadn't left me for a single second. I went to get her a glass of water, and she followed me, her eyes fixed on me, as if she were afraid to even blink. She was still staring at me. I made a bet with the universe, with my life as the stake. I bet that you loved me. I bet that you were in love with me. I bet that if I found you, you wouldn't abandon me again. Luckily, I won the bet. You brought me home, Ethan. What did she mean? My fingers trembled, and my breath hitched. I grabbed her by the collar. You traded your life for this? Chloe, are you out of your mind? Seeing I was genuinely angry, she deliberately fell into my arms. She whimpered, Ethan, it hurts. I couldn't stop the tears from falling again. I scolded her through my sobs. Chloe, are you an idiot? You knew you could have died, so why did you still come? She suddenly tightened her arms around my waist. Aren't you the same, Ethan? You knew you were going to die, but you still couldn't bring yourself to torture me. She knew everything. She said it as if it were nothing. Even if I had known the outcome, I would have come to you without a second thought. I know I'm yours. I can't escape it in this life. So I came. She kissed my lips, a devout prayer. Ethan, don't pity me. You should love me. Through my tears, I threw my arms around her neck. I bit her lip hard, until I tasted the sweet tang of blood. Only then did I release her. I love you, Chloe. She was the world's most incompetent villain. I remembered the Chloe from the original story never had anyone by her side. She had never touched anyone, right up until her death. She hated being touched by others because of the bullying she endured. But that rule never seemed to apply to me. I insisted on touching her. I insisted on taking her innocence again and again, leaving her with no one to turn to. Chloe, come here. Chloe came obediently, her eyes fixed on me. I grabbed her by the collar, pulled her to the bed, and pushed her down. Then I climbed on top. I tugged at the collar of her shirt. A few buttons popped off, revealing her beautiful collarbone and pale skin. It was my favorite view. I didn't hesitate, reaching out to cup and squeeze. Serve me well. If I'm not satisfied, I'll send you back. For now, just lie there and be good. I took out the tie I had prepared earlier. I bound her hands with it, wrapping it tightly, making it impossible for her to escape. It was all her fault. Her obsession, her sickness. They were the reason I could never escape. I gripped her chin, patting her cheek lightly. This is all your fault. She smiled, indulging me. Yes, it's all my fault. I heard her soft gasp, but I ignored the sound in the back of my mind. The system's mechanical voice chimed in. Villain's happiness level is off the charts. Life force restoration commencing.